Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this fine Monday morning, early a little bit for some of you. My name is Charlie Partlow. I'm the moderator for this panel today. This is the Hospitality Tourism Industry Forum responding to COVID-19. This is our second forum in the last few days. My trusted colleague, Dr. Robin DiPietro, will be handling questions from the audience. But let me start off by introducing our panelists, our starter panelists. First, we have Bill Dissen. Bill's an executive chef and owner of 3 restaurants, Marketplace, Haymaker, and Billy D's in Asheville, Charlotte, and Asheboro, respectively. He's a master's graduate from our program. We have John Hogan. John is Vice President of Design and Project Management for Marriott. John has experience in running projects, Marriott hotels in 25 different countries. So he's got a great global perspective. We also have Bobby Williams. Bobby is CEO of Lizard's Thicket. Everybody knows Lizard's Thicket, and Bobby's president of the South Carolina Restaurant Association. Has been a strong industry partner of our program for a number of years. Next, we have Brit Sims. Britt is an operator of Chick-fil-A restaurant. Britt, I really love those waffle fries that Chick-fil-A serves. You thought I was going to say chicken sandwich, that too, but I really love the waffle fries. And then Caroline Manning. Caroline is a hospitality event manager for Augusta National, and we all know they have a little golf tournament coming up in November that's going to compete against the NFL, so I'm going to have my iPad and my TV on at the same time while that's going on. So with that said, we're going to kick it off. I'm going to ask the panelists a series of questions. And if you want to respond with a question, please text it to Robin, and you'll have a chance to get your question on air. But let's first start with our question about the strategies. What strategies are your businesses using currently to cope with COVID-19? And Bill, we're going to start with you. So kick it off for us.
Sure thing. Well, we're actually completely shut down at all 3 of our businesses right now.
Are you doing any curbside or anything like that?
We decided not to. You know, one of our businesses is a quick serve that's based at the North Carolina Zoo in Asheboro. But since the zoo was shut down, we're completely shut down there also. Other 2 restaurants, the Marketplace and Haymaker, they're both casual fine dining restaurants. And curbside and takeout really has not been a big part of our business model. Although I think the verb that most people are using nowadays with COVID-19 is we're about to make a pretty strong pivot and update our model quite a bit. I personally don't think that restaurants are going to be quite the same, or the industry is going to be the same for at least 6 to 12 months, or until a vaccine is found. So we're, especially with our restaurants are all farm to table. So I've actually been in the process of working with one of our co-ops, a company called New Appalachia Growers, that we're going to start putting together, kind of a true marketplace at our restaurants and offering, farm fresh boxes with homemade bread and local vegetables and meats that we're going to be able to sell at the restaurant, and also putting together some ready to eat meals. And I'm in the process of working with my webmaster to create online ordering portals. We're still a little trepidatious about the health and safety of things, but it seems, at least in our area of North Carolina, that things seem to be tapering off a little bit, which is great. But we want to make sure that we're maintaining the health and safety of our team, first and foremost.
Okay, good, thanks. John, let's kick it over to you with Marriott, the big corporate perspective.
Good morning, Charlie. Thank you. So as you well know, a large number of our hotels are closed. We do have a large number that are providing caregiver rooms for caregivers. Above property, a large number of our employees are furloughed. And what I think is important there to note is that they're furloughed, they haven't been laid off. So the message is that those associates are so important to us in our business that we don't want to lose them. We're eager for them to come back. We're eager for things to normalize. We just don't know when.
Okay. Bobby, what's happening with Lizard's Thicket?
Well, we've always had a great carry-out business. And so not only are we doing carry-out, our drive-throughs are open. We're doing curbside pickup, and we started with delivery. And it's, we stayed away from delivery for a long time because of the percentage they got. But actually, we just raised our prices 20% on the app, and it's done fairly well. And we've not had one complaint on price. We're really worried about pricing at our price point, but people, as long as it's delivered to them, they don't mind paying for it.
Okay, all right, great. Britt, you're with Chick-fil-A. What's happening with Chick-fil-A?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. We, just like everyone, we're looking for ways to be able to serve our guests well and with care, while keeping team member safety our top priority. And yeah, we continue to serve our guests, primarily through our drive-through, really pushing our Chick-fil-A One app, and really educating guests on how contactless service through the app is a great option. We're making that very available. Also, many locations have curbside delivery as well, and definitely maximizing our third-party partnerships, such as DoorDash and Uber Eats, and those outlets as well, to be able to reach our guests at their houses. So just continuing to think about safety and service and care, and trying to reach our guests and be available for them is our focus right now.
Got a lot of new apps I'm going to have to put on my phone, I think. Caroline.
All right, so Augusta National is currently closed down. We only have about 20 people that are on the property, from grounds crew to a few security team members that are there, but the rest of us are all working from home, trying to plan a fall Masters tournament. But one of our efforts that we're working on right now is how to utilize some of the product that we had already taken on hand for the Spring Masters, and kind of feeding our community, and really how can we contribute here locally. And I think we haven't officially announced this, but I would say that our plan would be to not reopen until the fall to our members. We are a seasonal club, so we would have closed down after the weekend of May the 9th anyway. And so as of right now, we are completely closed for business.
Okay. Robin, do we have any questions from our viewers?
No questions yet. So I just want to remind everybody, if you do have a question, please make sure and just send it in the chat box, and we'll get that asked. So no questions yet. We can keep moving forward.
Okay, good. Well, some of you had sort of alluded to the next question. What are the challenges that you think that your businesses will face as you begin to reopen, and the impacts on the industry? So I'm going to switch around a little bit, and Bobby, I'm going to start with you on that question.
Well, in the near future, we are really going to have to open with social distancing. So I really think that we all have got to do whatever it takes to make the customer feel comfortable and safe in a restaurant. Our model has worked fairly well with the drive-throughs. Our business, I guess we were down yesterday just 20%, which is pretty amazing. I mean, when it first started, we were down about 60 or 70%. And for us to come back and be down only 20% is pretty amazing. So I think restaurants in the future will have to look at carry out in a different way. My son-in-law has an upscale restaurant, and he's opened 2 weeks ago. He stayed closed a month, and he's doing carry out now, family meals and whatnot. So I think even the fine dining sector is going to have to change their model.
That's interesting. Interesting. John, with Marriott.
So I think we're going to have to first get guests and associates confidence back, confidence that they can come into a safe, healthy environment in the physical plant. Obviously, as an architect, I that's the area I focus on. So, guests want to know, they always want to know that the room is clean, that the property is clean, but now we have to really go and show it at a higher level, giving them the confidence to know that it's at a new heightened level of cleanliness, and that the associate coming to serve them is going to be, safe. And then the model in terms of the food and beverage, the buffet as we know it from yesterday is not likely to look like the buffet we know going forward tomorrow.
Specifically, John, what would be some changes?
In the short term, and I don't know the operational plan as it's fully been baked out, or if it's fully been baked out. But in the short term, I would see buffets having more high-end pre-packaged items and less open, trays of fruit and pre-made eggs, etc.
Interesting. Okay, Bill, you're in. Your 3 restaurants are closed down. What challenges do you foresee as your restaurants begin to reopen?
Well, it looks like in the state of North Carolina, restaurants will be reopening probably sometime around the last week of May, first week of June. I know Governor Roy Cooper has mentioned he's going to have sanctions on how many guests are allowed in the restaurant. And then his next phase after that, 4 to 6 weeks later, he said they look to be loosening restrictions if it's deemed prudent by our government scientists. So I think, one of the big issues is going to be, as a restaurant, we want to pack the place in, right? That's the name of the game. You get butts in seats, that's dollars in the bank. So if we could, hypothetically, if the governor comes back and says you can have 50 people in the restaurant, how are you going to manage that? And also, in our style, any restaurant, you want to create an ambiance. So how are you going to create an ambiance that's not, that still defines who you are and your brand, but also isn't obtrusive to the guests, right? I think that's, how do you create that magic? And that's something we've been thinking about. I know we do live music at 2 of our restaurants, and as much as I don't, looking to cut back on costs, I think that's something that's going to be important too, to have, to kind of still make the guest feel welcome and like they're having a good time. You don't want to make the restaurant feel like it's this, like you're going to the hospital to go eat. And we probably all read a lot of the articles, about how dining is in China now. And a lot of it, they said it's kind of lonely. People come in, they eat their meal, the dining rooms are silent, and they leave. That sounds like a pretty depressing place to be, if you ask me. And I think for restaurants, we're trying to take people on a little vacation, right?
Right.
I think that's the whole idea of hospitality, is that we want to engage with them in a way that, why else would they come out to eat? They could do it at home otherwise.
Yeah.
So what can we do to make them feel special and feel like we're taking this little culinary journey along the way?
Yeah.
I do feel like it's been mentioned also, takeout, ready to eat meals. Those are also things that are going to be really important. But also the health and safety of our customers. So, something I'm looking into is, what are government mandates going to be for PPE inside the restaurant? Are all of our servers and front of the house staff, back of house staff going to have to wear face masks and gloves at all times, until deemed prudent? Silverware, is that going to have to be dishwashed, put in specific baggies, and put on the table so the guest knows that it's sanitized and clean and hasn't been handled again? Things of that nature. Are we going to have to do a lot more disposable wares in the meantime also? So, I'm looking to the government for more advice, but I'm also starting to speculate myself on what we're going to do internally to ensure the safety of our guests and also make sure that they feel confident in us.
Okay, good. And Britt, I know that Chick-fil-A likes to pack them in. So what challenges do you see in your restaurant?
Absolutely. We want to impact as many lives as possible and have as many folks visit our store. So I, like everyone, I feel like we, of course, to start, that we will align all of our operational requirements with CDC guidelines, to figure out the best way to serve our guests. We'll drive-through, of course, will continue to be king, for the foreseeable future. It was before and still remain after. I do feel like, like everyone has mentioned, that what we're talking about as a brand right now is the number of requirements that will need to take place. Chick-fil-A, specifically in states like Georgia and others who are a little bit ahead of us here in South Carolina as far as reopening, they have upwards of 30 requirements that are already that we're already preparing to implement there whenever we do open dining rooms. So there's a lot to come, as far as it could be plexiglass at the front counter, markers on the floor as to where everyone will need to stand. Perhaps we'll have to remove tables and have less, to create space between our guests. Our cleanliness standards and expectations in the restaurant industry, of course, are extraordinarily high. But like what was just mentioned, you try to create that magic, but now there's going to be that level of just guest perception of wanting to see what you do, as opposed to us doing that and it not being as visible. So I think there are those standards there, and in general, we'll just have to wait and watch and see and be sensitive and empathize with the guests' needs as we reopen. There's going to be perspectives and opinions across the board as to what the world should be doing. So I think for us, as a brand, we've always really just tried to lean into empathizing with our guests and knowing that all of our guests have a story and they have a perspective, and we want to be sensitive to that. And so really teaching and educating our team members is a huge piece of this as well, and ensuring that they're able to respond to our guests appropriately. So certainly it's different. I think it will always be different, but I think we have the most resilient industry out there in the restaurant industry, and I know we'll figure it out and can handle it well.
Yeah, Bobby, you need to get her as a spokesperson for the Restaurant Association. And then,
how are you?
Yeah, and then Caroline, I know the governor in Georgia is one of the first to ease a lot of restrictions, and I can't believe there aren't golfers who are jumping over the fence to play at Augusta National, so to speak. So what challenges do you foresee?
Sure. So I think, like I said a second ago, I think we're really fortunate in the fact that we are at the end of our season. So we were going to be closing down anyway and not reopening until October, which gives us some time to kind of see what's going to happen in the world over these next few months before we make any quick decisions to react to some things. But just like John mentioned a second ago, we are looking at all of our buffets. One of my areas of responsibility is actually all of our sponsor hospitality. So all of that is currently buffet service. We do have a small a la carte menu in there, and we're a little bit handicapped in the fact that we don't have full kitchens in these areas either. So we're currently putting plans together to see what kind of capital projects we can put into place over the summer to reimagine our kitchens so that we can get away from this buffet type environment or provide prepackaged items, just like John mentioned there. Another area that I oversee is the hiring for anyone who works in club operations. And club operations for us is any food and beverage outlet. We also have restrooms, housekeeping, all of those positions that kind of are forward-facing, servicing the guests outside of concessions operation. And so a big concern for me is, getting the staffing to fill those and revamping all of our training programs to new standards, really, and understanding what those standards are and knowing that we have a bunch of people in a very confined space, how we can better serve our guests throughout the Masters tournament.
Okay, good. Do you foresee any big changes with having the Masters tournament in November as opposed to April?
I see it as a very fun challenge. I think we're all just so used to being able to do our normal plan every year in April, and we're having a really great time as a team right now, coming up with some innovative ways that we can really make this Masters stand out and be different. And I think kind of re-energize people and get them excited about getting out again and getting involved in sports and things like that, which I think people are a little bit hesitant to do right now. But I'm hoping that it'll be a great fall. We know we're competing with a lot of wonderful things. College football to be one of them, but we're really excited about it.
Okay, good. Robin, what do we have from the audience? Any questions?
You got a whole list of questions. So I'm going to start off with this one for Bobby Williams. What would a new Lizard Thickets restaurant look like if you were opening a new restaurant but the same concept? What would you do differently?
Dining room would be much smaller.
Okay.
We would really look at reducing seats. We go from 150 to 175 seats. We'd probably go to 125 seats and really work on curbside pickup and drive-through. And we would try to make our drive-throughs much more efficient, like Chick-fil-A has done. They've done an unbelievable job with their drive-throughs, but we would have to look at some of their technology. But it would be mainly carry out and delivery.
Great. Okay. Next question's for Caroline. What changes is Augusta National making for an event of that caliber, the Masters tournament, in terms of like number of attendees, social distancing methods? Have you guys talked at all about what you'll do in November? Or?
Yeah, of course. It's definitely on the top of our mind. And we are, looking at the guest experience from the entrance of the property all the way through. How can we make that safer? And so we're putting a lot of practices in place. We've been following some of the top companies out there that do similar services to us. Disney has put some really, really great processes in place that we're kind of watching and hoping to implement in our world as well. But we're also very fortunate in the fact that we are a golf course. We're very spread out. And so we have that playing in our favor a little bit when it comes to patron services. But our concessions operation would be one that we would put a big focus on when it comes to cleanliness and servicing the guests and making sure that we're sticking to the new standards.
Okay, perfect. And then this question is for anybody in the group. How are companies going to communicate their new cleanliness standards? What are you all thinking about in terms of communicating what you're doing to rise to the new cleanliness standards that are going to be out there?
Well, I know when our dining rooms get back open, for sure, we will have someone stationed at the front door, and we will have someone in the dining room sanitizing every table, everything in the restaurant after each customer leaves. We are not going to have any condiments on the tables.
Okay.
Condiments will be by request only, and we'll take them and sanitize them afterwards, or we'll use PCs, disposables. We'll use paper menus in the beginning. But when we first went to social distancing, we had some customers come in, and we were seating every other table, and they said, what is this? I said, well, we're social distancing. He said, this freaking me out. I'm leaving. And they turned around and walked out of the restaurant because of social distancing. But as you can see today, as you go out, I was in Costco yesterday. They're doing a great job with social distancing, and they disinfect every register after each customer. And so I think that the customers in general are used to this sanitation, and it's just going to be part of our lives for the next 6 months at least.
Okay. Let's see. Anyone else want to respond to that one, or can I move on to the next?
Move on.
Okay. All right. Question for Caroline and or John or anyone in the events area. What is the outlook for group sales and events at clubs or hotels? Can they safely be accommodated? Would there be changes to meeting room setup and or food service?
I can tell you from my standpoint, I don't know the answer to that. I personally think there'll be changes, but I don't think that from a physical plant standpoint, we're going to be renovating major spaces to change.
Okay. How about our Chick-fil-A or Marriott supplying masks or plexi shields for employees working during the outbreak?
Marriott for sure is supplying masks, PPE to all of our guests, all of our associates that are at property levels.
Okay.
Yes, same at Chick-fil-A. All locations are equipped with face coverings and gloves and everything that they need to stay safe.
Britt, are
Okay.
you guys handling cash?
We are, yes. We are. We try to tactfully in the drive-through ask guests, will you be paying with credit card or the app today? But if they say I'm paying with cash, we would say it'd be our pleasure to do that, and we accept that cash through a separate container. They put the cash in the container, and then we take it that way from them, so we're not actually touching hands on any level. So we're trying to put distance between everything that we do with cash. But cash is a huge, obviously, element of what our guests need to use. So we will not cut that off, of course.
Okay.
Okay. Let's take one more question, and then Charlie, we can move back to you. But this question's for John Hogan. I saw this morning that one thing Airbnb is rolling out is a booking buffer. This would require hosts to leave rooms vacant for 72 hours before selling the space to another guest. Even though hotels are much different than these short-term rentals, do you see the lodging industry implementing similar protocols?
It's definitely not my area of expertise in that I'm in design and construction. However, I think what we're focusing on is cleaning the guest room before and after a guest occupies it. I think if in a hotel is substantially different than an Airbnb, in that if we did that, you could imagine occupancy levels would be be non-existent, right? Because the 72 hours, it cuts the use of that room tremendously. So we're going to focus likely on cleaning the room and letting the guests know what we're doing in terms of the cleaning operation.
John,
Okay.
will the time it takes to turn a room through housekeeping go up?
The hopeful answer is no. The realistic answer is probably.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next question. Moving right along here. Great answers, guys. This question deals with changes in customer trends, customer behaviors once businesses start to reopen as a result of COVID-19. So I wanted to know from your perspectives, how do you see customer behaviors and trends changing? And Bill, let's start with you.
You know, I think to piggyback off what Bobby was saying, I think people are going to be a little bit freaked out at first. You know, I know a lot of folks have messaged me and said, hey, we can't wait to get back out in your dining room and get back out to eat. But other folks, you know, I've teed some things up on social media to kind of get a lot of my followers' feedback on what they feel about dining out. And a lot of them are still scared. I've heard a lot of people say they don't want to get out in public again until there's a vaccine, while others say, you know, I'm healthy and I'm ready to get back to normal life and I'm done cooking at home. So I think there's going to be a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. Bobby, Lizard's Thicket.
Well, actually, the customers in all of our businesses, they trusted us before this pandemic. We didn't cause this pandemic. They just got to trust us that we will do the right thing in the future. And so, you know, you're in business 40 years because the customer has trust in your product. So we will just keep doing what we do, but cleanliness and taking care of the customers and make sure they're safe and the employees are safe is going to be number one. And for us to get the business going, you know, reopening. But it's, you know, it's going to be a gradual reopening. I think it's if we get open by June, I would be excited with that. But we're just going to. The customers really love gloves, and you know, I'm not a big fan of gloves. Gloves are supposed to be single use, so that means every time you do something, you've got to take them off. Not many people are doing that. You know, they'll wear the same pair of gloves all day, which is absolutely horrible. I don't like masks in the dining room, and especially if you're a restaurant like us, you don't like to see people walking in at night with masks on. So it's a scary feeling. But hopefully, we won't have to wear masks. Gloves, if they're used properly, but honestly, we probably spend $3,000 a month on gloves now, and I just got on May 1st they go up another 20%. So it's just going to be a lot of more fixed costs for us.
Okay. All right, John, what about in the hotel side of the business? I know you talked about some of your hotels are convention hotels, and the whole large-scale convention business might change a little bit. What has Marriott been talking about in terms of changes in customer trends and behaviors?
You know, I personally have not been involved in conversations regarding that, so I don't want to really comment on that. I think that my personal opinion should be kept separate of what Marriott's official opinion is. Honestly, I'd just rather let somebody else speak to that.
Okay. All right, good. And Caroline with Augusta National.
Sure. So our biggest challenge, I would say, would be, you know, mixing that Southern hospitality with kind of this cold service style that I think we're all going to be having to go back to, you know, masks, gloves, things like that. And how do you do that on a very large scale? And so we're looking at that, you know, from the club standpoint for our membership, knowing that we have a very international membership coming in from all around the world. And same thing with our masters patrons, and how can we, you know, best put processes into place that don't really take away from that warm Southern hospitality, but still provide very safe, secure service to everyone. And so whether that is implementing masks or gloves or things like that, we haven't made those decisions at this time. I think we have some time to figure that out. But it is a focus of ours for sure.
Is social distancing a problem on the golf course?
Luckily, it's not as big of a problem when you think about how many people we have out there for a tournament. That's when it could become a little bit more so. But we're not as concerned about it from a member, club operation, more from a Masters tournament perspective.
Okay. And Britt, your perspective from Chick-fil-A, what changes in customer trends or behaviors do you see? Don't take your waffle fries off the menu.
They're staying, which is great. They're staying. And we'll still have a few new products that that are easy, that will continue to roll out throughout the summer. Some things have gotten pushed back as far as we usually do a limited time only kind of special beverage and special treats, but that usually would come. So some things have been pushed back, some things will stay as far as from a marketing perspective, things that were already planned on our end. But as far as customers' behavior, I think I would bring it back to, we are just looking to take it one guest at a time with our team members. Give that guest that you're speaking to a memorable and just fantastic quick service experience. Show care through, as we wear the face mask, you've got to really smile with your eyes and, show care in a different way than we used to before. But like Bobby said, at the heart of it, we've created trust with our guests over these years. And I think that they're excited to be able to continue to be served by the restaurant industry and by the brands that they love. And so we'll continue to keep our focus on, creating a remarkable experience for each guest, one guest at a time. Certainly, there will be many new operational standards in place, but I think that that's expected and normal at this point and acceptable. So to our guests, and so that's what our direction is. From a corporate perspective, they really have looked at not getting too far out, because I think we can all start to think of, gosh, where will we be in 6 months or 12 months, especially when we think about a vaccine or not having a vaccine. But as far as their communication to their local operators, they're looking at a 90-day period and making 30-day commitments as far as like what's happening next from a brand operational perspective. And that really keeps things in line. So their food safety and COVID-19 task force, they're meeting daily, and we get frequent communication. And I've tried to really carry that communication down to our local team members and in my restaurants, and keep that communication flow moving so that we can be on the same page and serve our guests well. So, so we're looking at the next 90 days, but really keeping that fluid and flexible, but trying to make 30-day commitments to keep things steady.
Well, Robin, that really changes the perspective on long-range strategic planning, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Strategic planning, yes, has definitely taken a hit right now because, the future used to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And now we're thinking, like you said, Britt, a 90-day look at 90 days, but only promising 30 days. So very different. But that's a good point. And Charlie, it kind of leads us into some of the questions we have coming up next.
Sure.
So, this question is for John Hogan. Has there been any thought or discussion about changing the design of hotels in the future, or is this really going to be business as usual in development of the design factor of hotels?
I don't think it will be business as usual, but I think it will be business as usual in terms of evolving design. I don't want to bring you yesterday's design today.
Okay.
I want to bring you tomorrow's design today.
Okay.
So we're always forward thinking in our design of the physical plant, the building, the room, the guest experience, the associate experience. So those experiences that we have now, much like in 2001, the experiences we had then, will influence how we design going forward.
Okay.
John, do you see more technology being used by guests during check-in and their interaction to try to minimize guest to associate contact?
Yes, I do. And that's it's a kind of a difficult thing. If you think about hospitality, limiting guest to associate interaction is counterproductive to the hospitality mindset. But we will see a lot more of, others have mentioned the use of the mobile app. So you'll see, I think we will see more people using our Marriott app to check, our Bonvoy app to check in, using mobile key on their app. The app and how that app works, interacts with the physical building, I think will change as we go forward.
Okay, good. Thank you. I have a couple more questions. So this goes out to anyone in the group that would like to take it. There are several stories circulating about different brands and companies that are using this time to help the community and essential workers. During this time of uncertainty, what can hospitality companies do to help their brand? Or kind of tied to that, is there anything that you all have done? I know I've seen some messages on Facebook from Marriott CEO, but is there anything that you've done in terms of relationship marketing, really between your brand and the essential workers, or to help the community?
I can speak from Marriott's standpoint. We do have our community caregivers program, and that's intended for hard-hit areas like New York City, like Vegas, like other places, to offer special rates for those caregivers and first responders in those markets.
Okay. Anybody else?
This is really unusual. You remember 4 years ago when we had the flood, a couple of our restaurants did not have water, so we had to close them. So we just cooked and took pans of food to shelters. But this pandemic, there's really no place. I mean, everybody wants to help, but there's really no place where you can feed a large number of people. We have taken meals to the hospitals, but a lot of people are doing that. But it's just one of the weirdest thing about it is we want to help, but it's really no place to really help. And, we, our employees that are on unemployment, we made sure we got them all on unemployment and helped them with that process, which in the beginning was difficult to get on unemployment, but now they've got it smoothed out pretty good. So we had one person going around to the restaurants helping everyone. And so we reduced their hours. So now they're collecting, they're making some money, but also they're getting the federal $600, which really has really helped them. It's really hard for them to come back to work full time. But they, if you reduce their hours 50%, then they can get both. And so that's what we've done with most of our team members.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll speak on. I'm part of Chick-fil-A. The corporate office did offer all of the local owner and operators essentially a community support credit, which is quite remarkable. There was an article that went out. It was corporate-wide, nationwide, over $10 million that they dispersed to local stores to be able to help support their communities with care. So just like everyone here, we've, of course, supported the first responders as much as possible and really tried to lean into those areas of care that Chick-fil-A focuses on, from homelessness to education and hunger, the three big areas of charitable support that we try to support. So we've done that. And then another piece of that, of course, is leaning into our team members, our essential workers, and finding ways to treat them and reward them and appreciate them during this tough time. So and then on top of that, the local stores are just doing as much as they can as far as donating food and providing to requests that we receive, and also seeking out opportunities to serve.
Okay, good. How about you, Bill? Are your employees, do you think that they'll come back when you guys open, or what do you foresee for your restaurants?
Sure. Currently we have furloughed all of our staff, and we've been fortunate. We've received the PPP funding for all of our businesses, which is great. But as you know, it's maybe a topic to get into in our conversation here. How does that actually work in the hospitality industry if there's mandatory closures? And from an ethics perspective, I have some folks. We're fortunate we pay a living wage in all our businesses, but I have some folks that make on the lower end of that living wage. They're probably making more money now off the state and federal unemployment.
Right.
I don't want to take that away from them. Also knowing operationally that as we open and there's restrictions on how many guests are allowed in the restaurant, how many of those folks am I going to need back? Is it going to be my whole team of 40 people at each restaurant? Probably not. And so we're trying to figure out the ins and outs of the PPP program to discern how many folks we need back, how we can get forgivable, forgiveness in the loan as much as possible, and and then to figure out what the equation is, the number of folks we need back in the business.
Right. Okay. Good point. Another question, what advice would any of you give to our graduating seniors? They're about to enter a job market, which is very different than it was if they would have graduated in December, but they're about to enter the job market when most businesses are closed and there is high unemployment. Do you foresee any other area of the industry restarting sooner over others? So any advice for graduating seniors right now?
Hang in there. This too will pass.
Okay, thanks, John. Anybody
wait
else?
until November, I'll take you. Come and work the Masters tournament for us. I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit that we're going to need help with gearing up for that. And obviously, the event world, should it pick back up, we're going to continue to be hiring for temporary assignments, which could be something that they could do to kind of hold themselves over until those full-time jobs come back into place. I think that our industry is very fortunate in the fact that we have a lot of those opportunities, and I hope that they continue to pick back up as things open up.
Good. Okay. Anybody else?
Same for Chick-fil-A. We actually met with our HR team, met with them last week, and we're going to start really re-accepting applications May 1st. So that's coming right around the corner. And, filling positions and really just, like was mentioned, this will pass. And so go ahead and get in and into an industry or to a area of the field that you're interested in, and take the position of to get your foot go ahead and get your foot in the door, because this will pass. And goodness, after this opens back up, we could be busier than ever. We just don't know. So go ahead and get in and be willing to take any position to learn as much as you can. Just like I would tell a graduate at any other point of time. Stay hungry, stay humble, and be helpful, and you'll be fine. This will be fine.
And all experience is good experience, right? So no matter where you're entering the industry, in the job market, it's good experience for you.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. I think, I don't know about you all, but I think there is going to be pent up demand for the hospitality industry. In terms of people are going to want to get back out and safely go back into staying in hotels and eating in restaurants. And so, yes, like you all said, this too shall pass. It just may come slower than normal. So, Charlie, you want to take it away? We'll wait. We have one more question or two more questions coming later, but you want to take the next question then? Yeah,
we're in the home stretch here. Got a couple more questions. This question deals with something that I'm sure the students are interested in hearing about. Do you industry see any need for new skills, new abilities, any changes in capabilities for the future workforce? And let's start with John.
I kind of felt that was coming my way. I think, from my desk in design and project management, I would like to see people focusing more on the product and how we clean that product. I'll give you an example. So the chemicals we use to clean a room, if I put a wood finish in a room, what will that chemical do to that finish? So those kind of skill sets and knowledge base are going to be important from my standpoint. 7 years ago, Marriott went from carpet and guest rooms to hard surface flooring with the intention of letting a guest know that room was clean. I think now more than ever, knowing those hard surface floors are clean and that the product we use to clean them provides a safe environment is critical. And so from the desk of an architect, the design professional coming into my office, to our organization, knowing the product and knowing how that product interacts with the chemicals we're using to clean is extremely important.
Interesting. Caroline, what about in your field, private clubs? Caroline? Uh-oh.
Looks like she disappeared for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's kick it over to Bobby. Bobby.
Yes.
Any new skills or abilities or capabilities that you see the industry workforce needing?
You know, we're in the hospitality business. We're there to take care of people, to make their dining experience. I don't want to make it too sterile. I'm a little concerned. You know, my father always said he never saw a line of people waiting to eat at a hospital. I don't want to turn our restaurants into, you know, hospital rooms. I think that it's going to be not necessarily a person, but it's going to be our training. We have got to train our guests to take care of each customer individually and take more time with them, and be conscious of touching, you know, silverware or how you handle drinks or anything. But we've got to, it's going to be up to us. Our training's got to get better. And I don't want to see anything change except for being safer.
Okay, thank you. Bill, from the restaurant owner's standpoint, in your casual theme restaurants, what's new skills, abilities do you foresee from the workforce?
You know, I think much more attention to detail on cleaning. I mean, we certainly always score, you know, high on our health scores, but I think even more attention detail. You know, I foresee more need for HACCP plans being more the norm with regulations. I know that can be a pain in the rear for restaurants, but I think that attention detail, the checks and balances, you know, time and temperature charts, I think those are things that are going to be necessary across the board. You know, we already do that for a lot of our different processes, different cooking techniques we use, but I'd like to see that potentially expanded across the board, you know, so there's checks and balances for how things are held and you know, how things are cleaned as well.
Does it seem like health inspectors or health department codes and standards are going to be raised?
You know, I had about an hour-long phone call with the director of Maribel Services for Mecklenburg County, North Carolina last week. And, you know, I asked her, I said, how are you guys going to enforce, you know, all these regulations that are going to go into effect? And she said, you know, that's not on us at this time. That's on the, you know, the Mecklenburg, you know, County Police Department, City Police Department to enforce. And she said, you know, realistically, you know, how are they going to enforce that with so many restaurants? I think health inspections, you know, we have quarterly health inspections. I think that will change dramatically in terms of how, you know, how the cleanliness is and how they're overseeing things. And, you know, obviously state by state, the health code varies to some degree, but I think we'll probably see some updates to health code across the board. That's going to create new norms in how we track things in the restaurant.
Okay, good. And Brit Sims, what do you foresee?
Absolutely. I would echo and agree with everything that was already mentioned regarding safety and operational standards that will need to happen, and how everything would continue to be elevated. Personally, one thing that I've thought about is that because there's that element of you know, not wanting the business to become sterile, but also it needs to be increasingly safer just due to the circumstances at hand. I think just leaning into the hospitality piece of it is going to be even more crucial. You know, people after this are going to be craving hospitality, and they're desiring it at such a high level, and so the skills for the workforce will need to be continue to be elevated in that area. That was crucial before, but will continue to be a huge piece of this. So also, I think just leaning into the interpersonal skills of our workforce. I mean, as we think about their soft skills, as we think about really just basics. But if you're coming into the workforce now, educate yourself on those areas. You know, what are you learning about? What are you reading? How are you developing yourself during this kind of quiet time before we reopen, specifically around the areas of interpersonal skills and soft skills and hospitality? Because I think that that's going to be the difference maker considering all things are there from a safety and operational, perspective. On top of that, it's going to be, can you connect with your guest and in a unique way and provide them a remarkable experience. So I think that those things that we've already talked about will just continue to be even more elevated, and whatever it is about your particular brand that's special, really leaning into that and making sure your team's able to execute on that level to give the guests the experience that they are so going to be craving whenever they can't come back out.
Thank you. Robin, we sure are hearing a lot of good watchwords and phrases, aren't we?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think one of the most important things that you all have said, especially for our upcoming graduates, are to make sure that they take whatever experience they can get, getting in their foot in the door, and then also expanding their skill set in terms of, technology, the cleanliness, what they need to do to be helpful to businesses as they step out into this workforce. So I do have a couple of questions here from the audience. One of them is, do any of you, or how are any of you maintaining that employees are not coming to work ill? Do you have any screening system set up, or are you basically just talking to your employees and saying, look, if you're ill, don't come in? What are you doing to ensure that your employees are coming in safely? And that's the first question, I guess.
Well, I've ordered digital thermometers, and they're all on back order. I've got half the restaurants have them now, so we're checking everybody before their shift.
Okay.
We're waiting on, like I say, I've had them on back order now. I've got 7 restaurants with them, and we're checking everyone. And if anybody is sick, we ask them not to come in. And I think that's common practice throughout the whole industry right now. If you don't feel well, please stay home.
Yeah, good.
That's
Anybody else?
Same for us as well. I mean, we've been very open about, if you have any of these symptoms, whether, a fever, cough, etc., please stay home, and try to, make sure they feel responsible to do that. And they've really honored that, which has been fantastic. Also doing the temperature screening upon the team members' arrival to work. And if they are over the number of at that temperature of question, then of course they are sent home. And then, yes, also there's a new prompt that we have on our POS system to where when they clock in that they are asked that question, have you had fever, et cetera, and they have to click yes or no to kind of monitor that. And that will allow them to clock in or not. So that's a pretty neat aspect of technology that of course came down from our corporate office. So that's just another check, yet another question for them. That was a part of the plan before this. So that's kind of interesting. That is just, but it has rolled out. And yes, constant communication with them to ensure that they're completely well and safe to be able to come into the business.
Perfect. How about Marriott, John? Do you know if they're doing any kind of screening when employees come in?
I don't know that we're screening when they come in. I do know that we've always asked employees if they're not feeling well to not come in.
Okay.
And that still continues today.
Good. And then the last question I have on this screen is, are any of you all anticipating providing discounts to customers to get them to come back in, or are you planning a different kind of, is there any strategy that you have moving forward when we do open up? Are you planning on doing discounts? Are you planning on just keeping things the way they are? What are you planning on doing with customers to try and get them in?
Well, I know we don't believe in discounts, so I know we won't be doing discounts. And one other thing I failed to say earlier about the employees, all employees that are working, all our hourly employees that are working right now, we all gave them a 10% raise to get through this pandemic, more of a loyalty type deal. And so that's been really well received. But in our 40 years, we just don't believe in discounting. So we're just, hopefully our customers will want to come back. We're fighting for our lives out here right now. Everybody's just losing a tremendous amount of money. And this PPP, unfortunately, we won't be able to use the money. We won't even be open by the time, you know, the money, the time frame comes up. So I think you have 8 weeks or 10 weeks to spend it, but a lot of places aren't even open yet. So it's really,
Right.
all they can do is pay the rent with it right now. It won't help them reopen unless they change the way it works.
Okay. You bring up a good point, Bobby, that Bill Dukes was on Thursday, and he talked a lot about customers need to trust the brand, and customers do trust our brand. And I would think with Lizard's Thicket, same thing. I mean, you've got a 40-year history with the customer base, and it's not the discounts that will bring them in. He said the same thing, that he's not going to discount. He knows that customers, or he hopes that customers will maintain that trust that they've had for all these years.
Robin, one other thing that we're having a problem with right now is our suppliers. The supply chain is down. So it's going to take several weeks for our major suppliers to stock back up.
Sure.
So, you know, even if we open in 2 weeks, we might have to open with a limited menu.
Okay.
And everybody's going to have to look at that until we get the pipeline filled again.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.
Anybody else going to offer any discounts, or how will you get your guests back?
William, I know for our fine dining restaurants, we're definitely looking to pivot. And, you know, we're not at the extreme high-end level of tasting menus and, you know, prefix style, but you can certainly come in and rack up a tab. So we're definitely looking to pivot and have more kind of user-friendly, more budget-friendly options at first. Again, you know, ready-to-eat meals that people can take out with them. You know, other services, we do a lot of homemade bread baking in-house, you know, offering farmers market boxes and whatnot as well to take out, but also creating, you know, lots of drink specials. You know, I think people are gonna be ready for a cocktail.
I'm ready for one right now. I agree.
I think that'll be something really important to focus on too. You know, it's also part of the reason to go out. You know, not everybody drinks, but to go out and be jovial. So how do we add that part of the hospitality factor back in with just the great food? You know, I'm biased. All my restaurants are very hyper farm to table focused, but in my opinion, I feel like the supply chain is going to focus more on locally sourced, more on community. I really hope that throughout the pandemic, one thing, you know, having made it through the recession as a small business owner, I really feel like the recession sucked for many reasons.
Yeah.
But it also created a sense of community. Again, biased living in Asheville, but I really feel like it's what made Asheville Asheville. Everybody came together. There was a sense of buying local, supporting local, buying from local farmers, shopping independent businesses. And I really hope that does help make that change, because I think that's an important part of what defines a community. And restaurants and hospitality, in my opinion, also are what define a community. You know, if you go to a place like, if I go to a place like Columbia, you know, where should I eat? You know, Lizard's Thicket's one of the first places that pops up, right? You go to New Orleans, where should I eat? You know, it's like, hey, I need to eat, you know, have a beignet, right? Have a po' boy.
Exactly.
And I think this is a time where, as people in hospitality, we need to focus on defining our own brands even more strongly, but also defining our brands as a way to embrace our community even more, because I think we can make our community much stronger places through this pandemic.
Yep, I agree. Thank you.
We're down to the last minute here. So any last words, any last comments that any of you would like to make? Did Caroline Manning get back on?
She did.
I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, Caroline, anything you'd like to add? I don't know how long you were offline.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just thank you so much for getting all of us together. I think it's really great to hear everyone's best practices, and there's a lot of, you know, top hospitality sectors represented here, from hotels to restaurants to clubs, and it's really interesting to see. I've been taking some notes of some of the things that y'all are doing, and hope to implement some of that as we think about reopening and putting on a large event in November. I think we have a lot of really great resources here, and the University of South Carolina has been absolutely wonderful in helping to support us in our efforts, and I'm sure many of the panelists can say the same thing. So no, just an overall thank you so much for supporting all of us in all of this.
Thank you.
Wow.
We're gonna, just so you know, we are recording this, or I should have told you that at the beginning. We recorded the session. We also recorded Thursday's session. And as soon as we can all figure out how to get that up and online, we'll send you the links.
Yeah. And I want to thank all the panelists today. I want to thank Bill Dissen and John Hogan, Bobby Williams, Brit Sims, and Caroline Manning. As Caroline said, your responses were very diverse from all different aspects of the industry. We heard different things today than we did on Thursday when we did this forum, the first time we did this forum. So a lot of helpful suggestions and comments here today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And with that said, I think it's about time to sign off. And you guys have a great
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.